Hello there, folks.
Hi there.
So it's another episode of Würfelcast, episode 40 already. It is. So, already 40 episodes, so it's something. So we've been doing this.
It's one more than 39.
Yeah, we've been doing it. It's like every other week, and sometimes we had to skip. And so, when did we start? More than a year ago, I feel.
I think it was about 40 episodes ago.
Yeah, but when was the first episode? Let me see, just to be sure, because it's 40 episodes every other week, and I'm really bad at the, let's see, okay, let me see. So, the first episode aired in October the 30th, 2018.
That's about right.
It's been 3 years ago.
2 years and not good at numbers. Yeah, almost 3 years.
Yeah, which is wow.
2.5, you might even say.
That's amazing. That's a ton of years for some people. So,
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, here we are with another topic of the day, which is mediocre games.
Woohoo!
But we're gonna go through some of our other topics first, and let's just start with that. Let's start with recent plays and do the magic of having a board game geek right here.
Amazing.
There's something different here. But anyway, here we are. And Kyle, why don't you start? Tell me what you've played.
Okay, well, the game that I'll talk about today is a game that I was really excited for. Every year there's a couple of games that are coming out that I just get really, really excited for. This one is from the same designers as Root. The game was called Oath.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally arrived, and I dropped everything to take it out and learn how to play and then eventually play it. So first of all, I'll start by saying I enjoy the game. It is not a bad game at all. I had a good time with it, and I think that it will be a game that I would love to come back to and try some more. Saying that because the game is certainly not perfect. So in the game, what you're doing is one player is the Chancellor, who is the leader of the Empire, and everybody else is an outcast. And there's a goal in the game, and the Chancellor has to be meeting that goal in order to win the game. And if at the end of 8 rounds, the Chancellor is still meeting that goal, the game ends and the Chancellor will win. There's a couple of ways that the Chancellor can end a little bit earlier by rolling a die if he continues to meet that goal at the start of later rounds of the game. The other players, there's a variety of ways they can win. It's not like Root in that each player is different, but you can focus on something different. There are some cards that you can draw that give you a goal that you can win. If you take the Chancellor's goal away and hold it that way for 2 rounds, then you can win. You can also join the Empire, and then you just have to be better at a separate sort of sub goal than the Chancellor is to win. So that's sort of what you're doing, and you're going to be going around doing actions. You've got a certain amount of energy. I believe it's called supply that you're spending each turn, and you just do all of your actions. You can draw cards, you can attack each other, and the attacking is really kind of the weird part of the game because you sort of pick somebody who's at your area and you can attack that person everywhere that they are on the board, and you'll roll dice and you'll see who did better. It doesn't sound all that exciting. It worked when it worked okay when you're playing it. The only problem with the game is it is very difficult to learn. It kind of feels like the designer looked at the rule books that GMT Games puts out that are very difficult to read, section 1.1.3, and decided, hey, yeah, I want to do that.
Okay.
and made a game that is just very dense to learn. There is sort of a learn to play guide, but it doesn't teach you all the rules. It really was a game that in order to learn, I had to set it up. There were 4 turns that were walked through. I had to walk through those 4 turns, and then I had to keep going. And I just had to sort of play this game out, figuring it out. Okay, I want to attack this turn. I'm going to read the attack section, look it up, walk through it step by step. And so it was very difficult just to get in the door. Once I got in the door, I liked it. The game says, I believe it's 1 to 6 players. That is definitely not true. This is a 3 or 4 player game. You shouldn't play it with 5 or 6. You shouldn't play it with 1 or 2. It really is a not a great experience at either ends of that spectrum. So know that going in. But I liked it. It doesn't look amazing. It doesn't feel all that memorable. And definitely, if I were given a choice between this or Root or Vast, I would choose Root or Vast any day, hands down. But this is a good one. The other interesting thing about it is based upon how the game ends, you're going to kind of customize the next game a little bit. It's not a legacy game, but the winner is going to dictate, we're going to put this building out on this area, and we're going to take these 6 cards out of the game, and we're going to pull 6 cards kind of at random from a couple of different subdecks and put them in the game. That's kind of the changing things aspect. It's okay, but you could also just kind of do that anyway at the start of a game and not, if you didn't want to play it in a chain of 10 or 15 games. There's not really an end goal or a campaign winner. It just sort of tweaks the next game slightly based upon what you were playing. And if you found 3 other people who really liked this game and wanted to play it with you, and you wanted to play it again and again and again, that could be a great experience. Other than that, I do enjoy the game. I just wish it were a little easier to learn and teach.
Okay. Yeah. Not the one that I played. I also haven't played Root or anything like that, because one thing about such games, first of all, lately I've been struggling to, just go and learn another kind of a asymmetric or like a more difficult game that needs that kind of a huge involvement in the rule book in the first 2 games, let's say, and I don't want to wait for like the 3rd or 4th game to start enjoying something. So I don't know, maybe I just value my time differently because I don't play every day. That's the thing. I don't have a chance to play that often. And that's why when I saw this one, I was like, yeah, I don't care anymore. I got Root through Kickstarter at first. I was like, okay, I got Root, let's play it. And I never got to it. Eventually got rid of my copy because I felt like I will never get myself together to learn the game. And this one seems to be in that kind of a same, not you say same universe, but this same kind of a feel that it gives me by looking at it, by reading about it. And I've never played Vast, though. Vast seems to be the less complicated one out of those 3. Seems like that. And I've played Fort, which was for the card game, for the outcome, for the outburst that you got from Fort. Wasn't enough to kind of I don't know, the ratio of complexity and like different mechanics and twining, and it wasn't enough for Fort for me. But I don't know, this one feels the same. If I'll go into it, I feel like the difficulty doesn't really, it shouldn't be there, maybe.
Yeah, I
based on
mean,
your story.
again, I think Vast is good. Root is great. This one is good, but it's definitely the weaker of those three. It's probably about the same level as Fort, I guess I would say, in that it was fine, but didn't make me, but not that exciting. But I think if you did find some people that really wanted to get into this and wanted to go through that whole customization and setup thing, I think it could be fun. I
Yeah,
just don't know that that's ever going to happen for me.
yeah. I feel like this is the one for the targeted audience of that company who love their designs, games, difficult decisions, or maybe I don't know. We need to streamline mechanics now. We need to go back into streamlined mechanics. We shouldn't go too much into that sprawling whatever it is, you know. All right, so
Anyway,
yeah,
there you go. That's my recent play.
yeah, but looks great. Looks great. My recent play, and that's where I get in on the train with the easier pick, the opposite of difficult rules and lots of mechanics put together into one game. This one is a really simple bidding game, and I would say even a pinch of set collection in it. Though it's not really set collection, but it has a feel of that. That's Camel Up or Camel Cop, if you want to name it like that. But it's Camel Up. People do name it differently. Some people say Camel Cop with the new edition.
My face isn't that. My face is about the set collection.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong.
Uh,
I don't
I don't know
say
if we played the same game.
no. I don't say that it is a set collection game, but it has a pinch of that, a hint of that, because you are taking those different tiles. You're kind of collecting the tiles, and then you want to get money from them. It's not a set collection, I tell you. It has a tiny bit of that feel. The feel isn't the same as the mechanic. That's how I describe games, and that's how they work. You should never just say that this is exactly that mechanic, this is exactly that mechanic, because the mechanics aren't just one thing. The mechanics are many different things. This is a bidding game. Basically,
That
this is
part
a
is
bidding
correct.
game. Yeah. But anyway, we can agree to disagree. Whatever. I don't say it's a set collection game. What I say is the feel is something like that. Anyway, mostly this is basic camels racing. You do not control the camels themselves, yourself, and you are rolling those dice in this fancy pyramid that kind of has this top that you can take off, put the dice in, and you shake the pyramid, and then you push the button, and one die comes out, and the die shows you what color camel goes forward, and how many spaces. And you can mess it up a little bit. You have your own tiles that have a +1, -1. The camels can go backwards as well. And in this one, the cool part about is that camels do stack. And sometimes when the camel moves onto space with another camel, it stacks on top of that. So whatever is on top is in front of a race track. But sometimes if a camel which is right down below other camels, so the other camels are stacked on top of it, if that camel moves, it moves every other camel with that. And there are some crazy camels as well. You do not control them. They do have a die, a shared die, and this die moves those camels backwards, the other way, like the other way of the track. And these camels can also grab the main camels and bring them back to the start of the track. So that's the fun part, It's crazy, yeah. And all you do, you eventually you either move those camels, or you take a ticket, or you try to predict the overall loser who's going to get the last place in the whole race, who's going to get the first place in the whole race, and you're trying to kind of in a kind of an economic game. You want to get the most money, and you mostly get money by getting those different tickets, trying to predict who is going to be the first in that round, or maybe at least second. But if you predicted wrong, if you took the purple ticket and the purple camel is like, I don't know, for example, second to last, you lose a coin. So you have a risk to take each time you do that. Same with the overall loser, overall winner prediction. So yeah, it is extremely simple, to be honest, and it's fun. And I don't know what else to add to it. It works with different folks, people who are not gamers as well. And I played it for the first time now because I skipped this game because I was like, race games. I'm not into race games. And then I heard it was a bidding game. I'm like, I'm not sure if, I don't know, just didn't feel right. And then the new version came out, and I saw the new version was beautiful. The cover was beautiful. Like, maybe I need a lighter family game into my collection because I need this kind of game that look big, they look colorful, but they're simple to teach. Because playing simple card games all the time, like Red 7 or Dead Man's Straw, it's just, I don't know, I don't want to play them too much. I wanted something bigger. I want to, give them the feeling of the full board game.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I remember when this one first came out, I took it to a game day, and it had just won the Spiel des Jahres back in that year, which was 14 or 15. And I remember we just played it again and again and again. Everybody had a really good time with it. It's not the best game for the very highest end of the player count. Some of if you, at least, I don't know if the new one has it, but the old one, I think you could play up to 8 players or something, which was too many, just because some players just didn't get as many turns.
I think it does something like that, but I'm not sure I'm gonna play it with 8. No.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right thing to do. But with the smaller groups, it was a really good, fun game. The new version kind of takes a couple of pieces from the expansion. I don't know if I've played the new version actually. I know I have it, but I can tell from what you've described and from what I can see that it's added some pieces from the expansion. So I
don't know what they are. So
it's the black and the white camel.
Oh, it wasn't there.
Those weren't in the those weren't in the original.
Oh my! This is essential. They are fun.
And the new version has a plastic pyramid instead of a somewhat fragile cardboard one, which is definitely an improvement. So, and it's got those pop-up trees.
Yeah, that's totally fine. But yeah, this one, you said this has some expansion elements, which is great because I felt like this is the game. Like, you shouldn't take anything away from that edition. And I played with 5 players, and I think the 5 player was a really sweet spot to play that game. Yeah. All right, so here we are with recent plays. Let's get to the next topic, which is Cult of the Old. So Kyle, what's that old game or older game that you want to talk about?
I as I was making my list for our main topic today, I found some older games that were mediocre, and I decided to highlight one today.
That's fine.
This game is a deck building game. It was a deck building that came out back when 8-bit stuff was really very exciting, and people were very excited about putting 8-bit bad graphics into games. This game...
Is it the Boss Monster or something like that?
No, this game is that's not a deck building game. This game is called Pixel Lincoln, and what it was a kind of a mediocre deck building game where you take a little pixelated Abraham Lincoln and
oh my god,
create for him a video game level that he can go through. It really, right. I mean, you play sort of the moves, the jumps and the punches and move through. And I think you had to eventually try and take out a cartoon John Wilkes Booth. It was really more of a stupid theme that got people to be excited about the game. Certainly not the mechanisms. If you were to get it out today, and if you were to strip off the quirky theme, you would have a very mediocre deck building game. But
Yeah, is it like the it feels like the setup looks basically the same as the Penny Arcade, the deck building game, and all of that. There were several of these. Like it seems like the
yeah,
same thing.
and that one was also a mediocre deck building game. The interesting thing is, I believe, if I remember correctly, the cards you would play, you'd kind of put them together to make sort of a stage in a line that Pixel Lincoln could then jump through. But but it's let's just say that hook isn't really enough to sell the game.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember back when it came out, it was just such a silly idea that I got really excited about it. But looking back, it's not a very good game. Uh, it's just a mediocre deck building game with a very stupid theme. So
yeah,
there you go. It's also pretty old. I don't know when it came out, but it's got to be
2013.
about that's about what I was going to guess. Sort of the early days of Kickstarter. And anyway, that is an old game that we certainly haven't talked about in a while. So there you
Yeah.
go, Pixel
Though,
Lincoln.
if I would bring it out with my friends, the looks of it are totally fine. They would be really interested to start playing that game because it looks cool. Because right now, the pixelated video games they were a trend before, but I mean like recently, but they are still a trend. Pixelated
Of
games
course
right
they are.
now are a huge trend. But in board games, I feel like the pixelated art didn't go that well, like the video
Oh,
games did.
it was everywhere for about 3 years, and it still occasionally shows up. Um,
Yeah,
but anyway,
yeah. My Call of the Old is a game from I think also 2013. So we are just bashing this year, and this game is it was above mediocre for me, but this is a game about dice drafting, which is also dice.
ah,
Yeah, maybe remember that game, a huge
I
box.
remember its weird box.
Yeah, insert is also not the greatest, but the game itself, it was a nice combination of dice drafting, and you draft the different dice, which have the different symbols, like I don't know, the wood and the stone and coins, whatever, and you mark it down here. You get those resources, and you want to use this coins, or sorry, the resources you got from the dice, from the central pool of dice that you roll together, to get some extra workers, like people, and then you get the buildings. You want to build a variety of different buildings, which give you some special abilities, and you also need to defend yourself from barbarians. So there is that. The NPC take that coming in as well. So you want to defend yourself and you want to get the best buildings out, and you also get this kind of the tokens, which are like pork chop and village choice and the chicken thing. I don't remember all of these what they did, but they are like small tiles that you can use in order to do some kind of special abilities, manipulate the dice a little bit, and everything else. So it looked cool, and I don't know. It just was at that time when we got it. It was still. I think maybe we got it in like 2015, 2014. It was still kind of a fresh, and it just looked cool. It was one of the first experience of dice drafting for us, and it worked. But if you look back to it, it just isn't enough. It just may be too simple, and I wouldn't go back to it. But at that time, it's for some folks it will work. If you want to get a simple dice drafting with a little bit of that tension where you need to defend yourself as well, not just you draft your dice and you play solitaire multiplayer, and then I think this one just works.
Good.
So
Yeah, I
Castle Dice
remember it.
of the old.
It's one that I
Mm-hmm.
keep thinking I gotta get that game out and try it again sometime, but I never do. So
The dice are cool. I did really like the
they
dice.
are. And I remember it was difficult to store everything. It had a really weird box insert.
Oh, yes, it was bad.
Uh,
I don't know if there's that kind of a no. Is it here?
it's an
Yeah, that
oddly
one.
shaped box too. I mean, okay, it's not odd. It's a cube,
It's
but its
because all of
dimensions
the
are unnormal.
Kickstarter backers and they had to put all the names on the side of the box. I think
Oh,
that's why.
great.
Oh, this is the insert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's a
was
two-layer insert, though, right? There's another layer below it, and anyway, well,
something like that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Castle Dice. All right,
okay,
let's get to the next topic, which is funky components. Kyle, why don't you start?
okay. So this is a fairly so this is a this I don't know. This isn't a bad choice here. I'm just the game. So what I want to talk about today are the cubes in a game called After the Empire. So
Okay.
this is a castle defense game. In fact, it almost feels like Stronghold, but for four people, and you're not, it's not asymmetrical attacking each other. It's a worker placement game, and you're kind of doing your own thing. But in it, they've got, and I don't know that this is. There you go. So in it, you've got these little cubes that represent the strength of your various fortifications. And so for a stone wall, you've got little stone cubes. But instead of being little wooden cubes or little plastic cubes, they are plastic, they're textured. And so if you could see it really up, well, you can kind of see it in that picture. If you can see it, they've got like, it sort of looks like it's a block of stone. Or the wood one has
Mm-hmm.
some nice texturing, like it's a piece of wood that's been hewn. And with the new, they recently did a reprint on GameFound, and it's coming with little food cubes that are going to be little little yellow cubes that are also going to be textured. They're
Is this
just
the
really
deluxe
nice.
version?
No, that's the standard version. At least I think so. I
Okay.
don't think there's a deluxe version. Yeah, that's just the wooden wall that you're seeing there. Because you
Because
build these plant.
it shows a lot of the okay, I see. Now I can see the
Yeah, there's the wooden
wood ones.
cubes. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, those, I think I don't. I mean, look, I don't know, but those are the cubes that came in my version, and they're different from other cubes. It's a cube, which isn't very exciting, but just the way that it's designed and the irregular edges and sort of the thought that went into making it be a little bit more fun than just a boring wooden cube is it's kind of a fun little component in the game. The game's kind of fun too, but I think these, oddly enough, the wood and stone cubes stand out even more than the large plastic walls that you're building.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I
Nice.
almost want to buy some extras and put them in other games. There
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
you go.
So my pick for the funky component is let's just go with the dice theme, and I chose some dice this time. And look, also the same. I was like, I was going through the list to do the mediocre list, and I was like, oh, there's that game, and I'm look, is it mediocre to me? And then I look at the pictures to remember the game. I was like, ooh, these are nice looking dice, weird looking dice as well. It's from the game called Chromosome. It's a game about you're a virus trying to break from the laboratory and improve yourself genetically. Like every controlling things going on there. It was a really cool game, but had quite a few issues. Anyway, these are the dice. As you can see, these are weirdly shaped dice. They are four-sided dice, but they have this kind of a rounded shape. Uh, was it necessary to do that kind of a shape? I don't know if four-sided dice, how they do that right now. It's like um,
Normally it's a pyramid, right?
basically, yeah, you can say that. But yeah, I don't know. This one's weird, but this one's cool as well. I do like this dice. I do like the texture in them, like kind of the brain type thing here. I don't know, or the nerve system, something like that. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
about viruses and genetically mutated things. So that's my choice. Weird but cool chromosome dice. This is the game, by the
There
way.
you go. I don't know anything about that game. So,
Well, I think we have a review of that game, so go check it out.
okay.
The old review. All right, so this was the funky components, and now we're gonna get to our topic of the day, which is top 10 mediocre games. And now the thing is, I told Kyle what's the criteria, kind of, and I went with that criteria. I was like, I don't know what to choose, so let's mediocre games. So if I say that these are the games that are rated from 4 to 6 on BGG, I'm just gonna put the one I rated highest. I'm gonna put at the top of the list, or what I'm gonna do, you know. And I was like, maybe I'll just go with like I'm gonna take some games that are rated 4, some games that are rated 5, some that are rated 6. It was like, no, it doesn't really work as well. It doesn't feel right. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna stick with the golden middle. You know, I'm gonna stick with that exact middle. I took the games that are rated a 5. Because this, in my own description of ratings, a 5 is, I take it or leave it. I don't really care. I wouldn't play it again. Some games that are rated 5, I didn't like. So some games I just couldn't put on this list because I rated them 5 because I could appreciate the design, but I didn't like them at all. These ones, I could say I somewhat like them, but I don't care. Kind of a bad feel. I went with the feel. So I don't know. It was difficult to describe to myself what's the mediocre game to me.
Yeah. Well, and I ran and I started out, I did it a little differently, of course. I kind of went to my closet and looked online and saw just games that were mediocre. And I came up with a huge list of them. The one thing I decided I didn't want to do is this isn't, at least in my opinion, this wasn't a talk about games that other people like that you think are mediocre list. This was just talk about games that are, for me, a mediocre experience. And so I didn't go after any games that I know, okay, this person really likes, but I think it's overrated. I didn't do that. I just picked games that, for the most part, gave me kind of a mediocre experience. Not positive, not negative. I'd play them, but I wouldn't run out and try and find them.
The same thing that the things I find mediocre, but on my list there are the games that people find amazing. But I don't know. I didn't go with that extra layer of, is it amazing to others? I don't care if it's amazing to others.
Yeah.
For me, it was mediocre.
Yeah, well, and I also tried to pare down my list to make it a little bit more meaningful. I mean, I could probably come up with 10 mediocre games that no one would have heard of. I tried to talk about games that sort of had a connection, usually from another designer, maybe it's a game from another designer that this was mediocre, or a company that usually produces good games, and this is a mediocre entry for them. I kind of went with that in making my list.
Nothing too obscure, you want to say?
Well, I mean, I don't know that these are games that we always talk about. I think you will have heard of or seen every game on the list. I also wasn't really able to rank them. I think my 10 to 1 is going to be kind of almost random because they're all kind of mediocre. So
yeah. But I tried to kind of put it in kind of order, but at the end of the day, you can say just take these 10 games. This is my opinion on mediocre games. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to number 10. So, Kyle, what's your number 10?
All right, my number 10 is from a company that always produces way overproduced, way too many rules, too many expansions, doesn't fit in the box. The company is Level 99 Games, and the game I'm talking about is Argent the Consortium.
Mm-hmm.
So This is, if you wanted to have a mediocre worker placement game, this is a good entry. What you're doing is you've got these. Are you able to find it? Sorry. Yeah, there you go. You've got workers, and they're like working in a school or something. They're like working for a professor, and you're putting them out to take different actions to get resources. You can there's different colors that can do different things, so you could attack each other or get some bonus resource. And ultimately, there's goals you're trying to accomplish, and that's really it, right? You're getting a bunch of stuff. There's a million different resources. The game takes 2.5 tables just to set up. It looks nice, but every time I've played it with anyone, we've always come away thinking, okay, that was a fine experience. It's not particularly memorable. It doesn't have anything that really stands out about it, either positively or negatively. It's definitely, well, the second most complicated game on this list. But anyway, that's a company that I always really enjoy and like to follow. This is just a mediocre entry from them.
I heard about this one because somebody said that, if you like kind of a Harry Potter-like wizard worlds and this kind of a feel, it's the school of magic, whatever. This is the game. So they say that this kind of a that it's its own world of Harry Potter something.
That is the theme, right? It's a magical school. I don't know that theme really comes across in any of the mechanisms or really anything at all. It's also that same world that all their other games are based in. So you've got some characters that show up in Pixel Tactics or in BattleCon, but this one is just worker placement with a lot of symbols and nothing really very special about it.
All right. So my number 10 is a game that is loved by many. But when I played this one, and at that time it was already extremely popular, I played this one and I felt like, what's so cool about that? It's not a bad game. It was fine building the routes and things. Okay, I like trains. That's fine. But where's the fun? Where's the real fun? And that's Ticket to Ride. I find Ticket to Ride to be a mediocre game for myself, though. And that's the thing. You can see, yeah, many people will disagree, say it's the best game of all time, whatever else. I don't find it particularly interesting because it's just you take you take cards, yeah, you use the tickets, you put the trains down, you try to build a route. Oh, somebody blocked you. Oh, how fun it is. And then you go another route, and then you're trying to score the longest routes or whatever. And there are million expansions that have different routes and maybe a few extra mechanics. But it's all about just building those snakes. It's like the old Nokia snake game. You're trying to expand and be bigger and bigger, as a snake. But that's how I feel about this one. That's just how I feel about this one.
Okay.
It's nothing special. But I can see for that year, at the time it came out, it was probably just a perfect family game. But nowadays, we have a ton of these. We have Camelot, for example. The same. It's fun. But in Camelot, I have intrigue when I roll that pyramid if the right die comes out. In this one, it just, do I draw the right cards or not? I don't care. So Ticket to Ride, for me, it's a mediocre game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I'll admit that Ticket to Ride is not an exciting game, but I have had so much fun with it and played it so many times with so many people that I do not find it to be mediocre at all.
Maybe, yeah, it was my just bad experience or something like that, but I never want to get back to it. But it's not something I don't want to say I didn't like it. I don't want to say I hated it or anything like that. it just didn't give me any emotions. It was like right in the middle, leave it or take it or leave it. All right, that's the controversy number one. We'll get to more.
Yeah, I don't know that my list is going to be that controversial. I think that these games are just, well, who knows, right?
You'll see. You'll see when we get to my number one. You'll be screaming. No, I'm kidding. But let's go to number 9.
All right. So my number 9 is from a company that really kind of came out of nowhere and designed a small box deck building game, which was called Star Realms. And Star Realms was really very popular because it was small and easy. But then they came out with another game, which is the one I'm talking about here, which is called Epic.
Okay.
And Epic, they sort of designed it to be kind of like Magic the Gathering, sort of that collectible card game, but with all the cards in one box. Yeah, that's the one. And they tried to design it so that it could kind of give you all the experience of those sort of trading card games, but with everything sort of in one box. And there were like 5 different ways to play it. You could play it as a draft. You could play it as a cube. You could play it, and there was so much effort put into making different ways to play it that no one actually ever really explains how to do so. It's just sort of a play your cards, play your best card, attack, and try and win. It just, as a game itself, it's not very exciting. It feels like a slimmed down version of your Magic the Gathering or your Android Netrunner or anything else that it was sort of emulating back in the day, but without any real heart or soul. There's so much effort put into figuring out the different modes you can play that no one really focused on making a game that was all that exciting. The artwork is okay. It does
mediocre artwork.
It's okay. It's not offensive, but it's not amazing. And it was almost disappointing just because I was really excited about it because I had really enjoyed Star Realms and Hero Realms. I don't know. I know this came out after Star Realms. It might have come out before Hero Realms. But for example, you see that Pyromancer there?
It's offensive, kind of.
It's a Pyromancer. The one thing is there's that coin up in the corner. Sort of the hook of this game is that you have 1 coin to spend every round. So you can play 1 card that costs a coin. There's no way to get more. And so, there's so cards are either going to cost 1 coin or 0 coins. And, you can play one that costs a coin. Hooray. Anyway, it is a mediocre experience for a head-to-head trading card type game. At least it's not very expensive, not very big, but it's also just mediocre.
Yeah.
Which is especially offensive given its name, which made you think it was going to be epic.
Gin of the Sands, Drinker of Blood. Oh my God. What? Just call it a vampire or something. I don't know. Drinker of Blood. Oh my God. It's so bad. It's bad. Okay.
It's not bad. It's just mediocre.
It's mediocre. Okay. Yeah. Never play this one. Never will. Okay.
I don't know. With all the games on this list, I don't know that any of them, at least for mine, are games that I would recommend anybody run out and talk about or run out and look for because they're all mediocre.
I would for some people because they find mediocre games fun. And I feel like, okay, if you find them fun, then... Anyway, this is another game that people do like, and I find it mediocre, especially if you have 2 other games that kind of or even 3 other games now that are bigger, probably more complicated, but better because this kind of a game shouldn't be too streamlined. I'm talking about Jump Drive. And Jump Drive, a race for the galaxy, and I played Roll for the Galaxy type game. where you are just collecting those different cards, trying to get to the certain amount of points, race to the points. First of all, I don't like really that race to the points. Race to points feels for me always like a kind of a mediocre mechanic because it restricts some people who have kind of a broader plan, and for some people who just don't care and do something, they can win the game out of the blue because they just somehow put the cards down, got the right cards, and just finished it fast. They got to a certain amount of points. It's a bad mechanic, in my opinion. Race to the points, but this one just didn't have any soul. When I played Roll for the Galaxy, you had dice. You considered who's gonna do what. Where do I gonna put dice? There's kind of a huge, I would say, interaction, a passive interaction, but it is there. And then you have the tiles and things, and it just felt big. It just felt cool. This one felt like just another card game with, I don't know. You can see here. You get a point. You get a card. You get 3 points. Oh, how great! And you have two different ways to get the cards: the rounded and the rum cards. Okay, cool. Whatever. Just I was kind of disappointed, but on the other hand, it's not like this game is bad or anything like that. It worked,
Yeah.
and I can see people like it. Not for me, though.
So this one I would definitely agree with because this one is really more of just a tutorial for Race for the Galaxy. And I mean, it's a fine game. I definitely agree that it is not all that memorable. There are a lot there's some very obvious games that do the same thing better. So this one I'll agree with.
All right, at least something. Yeah, let's go to number 8.
All right. My number 8 is a game that is very well produced, great looking. It's from a company that always does a well produced, great looking production. That company is Days of Wonder. The game is one of those sort of forgotten Days of Wonder games, Cargo Noir.
I heard about that one. Yeah.
Cargo Noir is really, it was one of those ones that came out and got forgotten because it was kind of mediocre. What you're doing is you're trying to bid, and so you've got to put coins underneath your ship, and at the start of your turn, if you have the only ship at a spot, then you take all the tokens that are there, and then you're just trying to get these tokens to get cards and things like that. It's just really a very basic bidding auction type mechanism, but it just doesn't really have anything else behind it. It's just really doing that. And I mean, the little plastic ships are nice. The coins are fun. The artwork is okay. It doesn't really do anything for the game one way or the other. But after playing it, it was sort of everyone kind of looked around and went, eh. It's not offensively bad, but it's also not very exciting. In fact, it's mediocre.
I do like how it looks. I don't like the white borders around the different locations, but maybe they are there for a reason to distinguish the different locations. I don't know, but yeah,
that's what I mean, each location is a separate board, and you can arrange them however you want, but that doesn't actually have any effect. You can flip some of them over to play with more or fewer players is really all it does. I mean, the white borders help you see very clearly who's in an area and who isn't, but that's all.
Yeah, you can see that. Never played that one. I skipped that one because it felt like nothing special.
Might have been a good choice.
My number 8, and I think it's a reoccurring theme on this list, that these games are mediocre because there are other games that do it somewhat better. And that's how it is, Otherwise, these would be the best games. But my number 8 is a dice game called Quarriors. I played Quarriors. I don't remember what version I exactly played. It was some base game with some things in it, but I don't really care because this is a dice back building game where you have these cards which represented by dice, and you buy those dice, and then you basically take those dice out and attack with them, etc. And I don't know, just upgrading and getting cool dice, which are represented by these cooler cards and collection. I don't know how to describe it. There isn't anything particularly exciting. It wasn't bad. I liked it. I liked how you collect those dice and you attack and you get this energy dice and sidekicks and whatever, and you get better and better cards, kind of a more expensive cards, like a deck building,
Mm-hmm.
But all they did is they put the dice in that you roll, but it wasn't exciting enough. The other game, when I played the other game, Marvel Dice Masters, I felt maybe that it was more exciting because Marvel Dice Masters, first of all, a two-player game, the dual type interaction was already better than this one, which played 2 to 4. This one doesn't just work with 3 or 4 players because I feel like you need to have this kind of a dual thing going on. Maybe also that the Marvel universe was more interesting. The abilities might have been more interesting. You kind of can appreciate, like, oh, Hulk does this because he's Hulk, or Iron Man does this because it's Iron Man, and things. So the abilities kind of made sense thematically as well. So Marvel Dice Masters was just a better experience, and that's why this one just felt mediocre eventually.
Yeah.
Hard to explain.
So this one, I definitely had it on my short list. I kept it. I didn't end up putting it on there. I mean, this is, I believe, designed. I think that the same people that created this game created Dice Masters. So this was sort of the 1.0 implementation. And I didn't end up putting it on my list just because when it came out, it was the only thing that did this. This was like something super new and exciting. I agree it may not have aged as well. And I think if you were to get into it now, you'd think, but back, I spared it from the list just because I had so much love for it back in the day.
I played it before. Marvel Dice Masters came out.
Yeah,
I didn't know about Marvel Dice Masters, and I played this one, and I still felt like at that time I rated it maybe it's like a 6, maybe something like that, and then it downgraded to 5, mediocre. Like after playing the Dice Masters, like, okay, this is even worse than I thought. Okay, so yeah, Couriers, my number 8.
All right.
Let's get to number 7.
Number 7 it's odd that this one follows what you just did because it's kind of the same type of game, although doing a very different thing. This is also sort of a dice bag creation game. The game is called Dice Settlers. And this game, you're sort of throughout the game acquiring different dice. You're going to put them into a bag and you'll pull them out and roll them. And they'll give you different symbols, which you can then do different things with. You can gain some resources. You can put out these tents. You can buy cards. You can attack other people, which is sort of a deterministic type combat thing. And then eventually the game's over and you see who has the most points. The game looks nice, right? I mean, the components are fine. The designer has done a lot of other highly regarded games. This one, however, it just was very not exciting, not inspiring. It kind of, again, nothing wrong with it at all. It was just a mediocre experience, and no one that I played it with ever got excited. I remember being excited because there was a solo mode, and that was also not all that great. So it is a mediocre dice rolling, dice building, bag building, whatever you want to call that. Also some area control in there type game.
Yeah, I think it's just my opinion, but I think the looks of it also hurt the game a lot, because the box shows you this, and then eventually you get this kind of a board and really not great looking dice, etc. It just, everything felt like it was a bad production. If you look at
Yeah,
that, it's not a good production. It feels
it's
like
an okay.
prototype.
It's a mediocre production. Well,
Yeah,
I don't like those at all. That's not what's in the game.
but look at this one.
But
It looks like a prototype. It's a
well,
bad
the
looking game.
colors are very distinct. I'll say it like that.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, something that could have hurt the game. My number 7 is another game loved by many, but I find it mediocre because I feel like quite a few other games, which are also worker placement games, do a better job. Because I think a worker placement game should never restrict your moves too much. Worker placement game should be about, you have tons of places to go, but the restriction comes from the players who are blocking the spot that you need to get. That's exciting. And here I'm talking about viticulture. I don't find viticulture an extremely good design. Um, but why it's mediocre, I didn't like it that much, but I didn't feel like this is a bad game. I mean, like, this is a strong design, has many cool things. I do like a theme about winemaking. I do like worker placement as it is. I do like card play. And what made it mediocre for me is that whenever you take away the choice that I really need to get, by having the seasons that are restricting movement of my workers. If the whole board would be available, it would be so much cooler. I feel, for me at least, it was a bad decision to do that. Seasons, whatever, but I don't care. It's a mediocre experience for me, because something that was kind of a few mechanics that were great were taken down by some mechanics which were not so good. So it landed somewhere in the middle for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is a game that I do think might be a little overrated by some people, but I totally considered it when I was thinking about the list, because I've always had kind of positive but not exciting experiences with it. But so I can see where you're coming from with this one.
All right, let's go then to number 6.
Okay, number 6. So this is from a designer who never fails to do something interesting, right? His games are not all amazing. In fact, some of them are not great at all. This one, though, what his sort of thing was, he was going to take mechanisms that were inspired by a bunch of different games and put them all together. The game is called Copycat. The designer is Friedman Friese, and he and really it's got some weird political theme on it, but it was, and again, he kind of took these mechanisms and said, I'm taking this from this game, except not really, right? I mean, it's kind of a deck building game, and the cards will get a little less expensive as the game goes on. It just never really got very exciting. The art style is very consistent with what he always does, and some people love that, some people do not. It's definitely on brand for this designer and this publisher. But the game itself is just kind of a mediocre deck building game. And with some, I think there was some worker placement in it too. I mean, there's a lot of different mechanisms that are kind of competing for the spotlight here. And perhaps because there's so much going on, nothing ever really shines, and the game itself never manages to be all that exciting.
Yeah, every time I look at the Friedman Friese games, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of the art, the themes usually as well. The only one I liked is the one with the fearsome floors. Yeah. So because it was just fun to run away from the monster, but I don't know. I don't find his games to be appealing to me, so I'm not going to try any other ones from his design.
This is probably not the one that I would say you definitely need to try. I found it to be a mediocre experience.
Okay. All right. So my number 6 is a game. Yet again, something there is another game that is better, and another game from the same designer, by the way, that is so much better, and it's not that more complicated. The game I'm talking about here is called Longhorn. A two-player Mancala game. You are just taking those cows from one kind of a sheet here, and then one tile, and then distributing them. Kind of you have a certain rules how you build that route and things, and if you empty that tile, then you have to activate the ability of that tile. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and sometimes you're stuck with that bad decision. It just felt like you're doing something, but it's not exciting at all. It's just too small for kind of a, I don't know, Mancala itself is nice, but there's nothing else to it here.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is that you have 5 tribes from the same designer.
Right.
And 5 tribes is so much better, and 5 tribes is not an extremely difficult game to learn. I feel like if I could teach this one, like if I would teach this one or 5 tribes, I would go just a tiny bit, one more step of that complexity up, and then go with 5 tribes and just maybe help the person through the game rather than show this one as an example of Mancala. So
yeah,
if you know
I
what
agree.
I mean.
This one really is just it feels like an unfinished 5 tribes. It feels like it was the idea. I don't know which came out first, but it feels like, oh, I have this idea. Let's see how it works. And then later on, it became something much better.
One came out 2013, I think. Let me see. Okay, yes. And 5 Tribes, I think, came out 2015 or 16, something like that. 2014 or something like that. Like kind of almost next to it. So.
All right.
Okay, let me get away from that, and let's get to number 5.
All right. Number 5 is a game we already talked about today. We didn't really talk about it, but you mentioned it earlier when I was talking about Pixel Lincoln. The game is Boss Monster. And Boss Monster is, it's this sort of that pixelated art. It definitely nostalgically was designed. I mean, you look at that cover and it looks like the kind of game that I personally am just going to love because it sort of harkens back to all those old video games. The game itself, though, the gameplay is really very uninspiring. I recall that it had some take that type elements to it, and you were really just trying to put out the cards and put them out in an order so that the heroes who would eventually go through would die. And it just never was very exciting to play. I don't know honestly from this particular company that I have loved any of their games. I've tolerated Call to Adventure just because of the themes that it has, but this game is just, I mean, again, it's not terrible. It just ultimately wasn't very much fun. It wasn't the opposite. It wasn't a boring game. It just was a mediocre experience. And I know this one has been very popular. At least it sold a lot. And that might be because of nostalgia and not because of gameplay, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I looked at this one. I think I haven't tried the app.
Yeah, there is an app.
I think I tried. And then I realized that I didn't really read the rules. I tried the app, and it didn't feel exciting at all. And I'm like, maybe the real version will feel more exciting.
No, it's the same. The experience you had on the app was probably a mediocre experience, and that's probably what you would have if you were to purchase the game.
The idea about being a boss monster and building the dungeons for the heroes is a nice idea.
It's a great
But
idea.
but I feel like this game would have been better if you would still be heroes like a traditional way. Maybe if it would be the other way around, it would be a better game. Like, or maybe one versus all, something like that. If some boss monster builds the dungeons and you trying to stop him, boom. That would be great.
It just, the whole thing, it feels like it takes that idea and gives almost a disappointing result.
Yeah. Okay. My number 5 is a game that will hurt your feelings because you do love this game. And I talked about this game quite a few times. I don't want to say that I hate or don't like the game. There were some cool ideas, but I do find it mediocre. I do find it that it's nothing special. And that's the Blood Inn. And okay, the theme is special. But the different special abilities and the economy in it just didn't excite me enough. I just wasn't hooked by the game, It wasn't enough for me to have this kind of a fun with. I do like this kinds of card games and, managing your cards as resources and getting money and things. I do like that usually, but this one just didn't work for me. But I wouldn't say it's a bad game. I can see people enjoying that. I guess you enjoying that a lot. So yeah, that's where I find it mediocre, but people will love it.
Yeah, I mean, this one is one that I sometimes think I'm the only person who, well, Victor likes it too, but I sometimes think we're the only people who play this game. But look, I think this is a fantastic game with a lot of interesting choices and just a quirky theme that really is helped. The artwork is a little, I don't know that I love the artwork, but that's obviously very stylized. But I do remember you were not nearly as enamored with this as I was. So
yeah,
but even talking about it makes me want to go and get it out and play it. So
go get it, son. All right, let's get to number 4. All right.
Number 4, definitely the newest game on the list. This is a game that I was really excited for. I love 2-player kind of head-to-head games where you're trying to play matching symbols and get control and that kind of thing. I love that concept. And when this one came out, it's a theme that it was kind of fun. The game is called Lawyer Up.
Wow. The one that I'm excited for.
You're excited for this? Yeah. Ultimately, it is. I played it, the solo version, played it, the 2-player version. I don't think you can play it more than that. And both of those were just kind of mediocre experiences. The issue I think that I had with the game is that the 2 sides have identical decks, other than the 10 cards that you'll end up kind of drafting in through the discovery phase. And because of that, it just kind of felt like, okay, I'm going to do something exciting, but I know you're going to do that exciting thing later. And it just sort of felt, it just never really became a very exciting game. The theme, I mean, is kind of barely there. I'll tell you that. I mean, look, thematically, there's sort of definitely some effort put into it, but it doesn't really shine or sparkle off the cards. But the game mechanisms and just sort of having almost 100% the same cards, it just really kind of came down to, okay, well, I can play this one here now, and you're kind of waiting to exhaust your opponent's hand so that you can kind of move a little disc back and forth on a track. I really wanted to like this one a lot. I will admit I've only played the one. There are 4 cases, and I've only played the one. And perhaps if I played the other 3, they might be more interesting. But I think some of the same problems I had with with the first one would persist because those 2 identical decks carry forward into all the other games as well. And I think because of that, it just felt a little too balanced and never very exciting. And so I found it to be mediocre.
Yeah, I still do want to play that one and see how it goes. I'm not
Maybe you'll love it. But
I'm not into 2-player games. I'm not into that kind of a dragging the rope from one side to the other. I liked it before, but it's not pulling the rope type of mechanic that I enjoy nowadays. But yeah, I don't know. I just the whole. I've watched different shows and I don't know documentaries and whatever about the lawyers and things just for fun. It just started. It started the excitement about that thing. Like when I watched the How to Get Away with Murder, which I did like the show. I didn't like the ending; it was bad, but I don't know. But yeah, it kind of felt like that. So after the show, I was like, I don't want to try this game just for the theme.
Yeah,
Just for the theme.
yeah. Well, I mean, I obviously I always hope you'll love every game you try. I just, and again, I don't think it's a bad game. I just didn't find it very exciting. I kind of found it, well, mediocre.
Okay. So my number 4 is. Wait, I have some kind of a. There is some kind of a weird thing. I have 2 number 4s that like my number 8, my number 4 is the same. Something went wrong.
Huh? You put the same game on twice?
Yes, but there was another game that it's not on this list that I needed to put on this list. So as you can see, the order doesn't really matter because this game that we're going to talk about now should have been my number 8, and number 8 right now was Couriers, and Couriers would be my number 4 right now. But let me just then switch them and talk about my number 8, which is number 4 now. I climbed fast. This is an old game, but it has some kind of a nostalgia for me. Like you talking about Lawyer Up, and me talking about another game which is Pull the Rope, kind of a game, area control. I think it was like one of the first games, one of the beginning of Würfel, beginning of my relationship with board games, and one of them was the campaign manager. 2008 was it? Yeah.
Oh.
And yes, and you can see,
Okay.
Twilight Struggle. Why don't you play Twilight Struggle? Because I'm not sure I want to play political games anymore. To be honest, this one at that point when I played it in 2012 or something like that, I just started with board games. I didn't know about I didn't care about the theme that much. Political theme, I just like, who cares? I don't care about that. But it was exciting game to play 2 players because you get your own cards and you're playing one of the president candidates and the other person plays another one, and you are trying to win over the states. And you're playing those ability cards to manipulate all those different states and get them to your side. And there are some other things, extra things that you're gonna do as well. At that time, it was exciting. We played a few times, and as the time went by, I realized there are thousands and thousands of games out there. So this is not the game I really want to play, And it at first it was great, and then it felt mediocre. So yeah, it was long ago, but it's not a good game. It's not a particularly bad game because isn't anything that's breaking the game. It's fine. You are trying to win over the states. You put your tokens down. You play those cards. It works. Everything works. It's not bad. The theme, it's theme about a particular year of presidency, whatever, and that's where it just wouldn't be on anyone's list right now. I feel,
Yeah.
but it's not a
So,
very good game as well.
yeah, this is the same designers as 1960 Making of the President. And it really feels like a watered down version of that game. I mean, it is a very much a watered down version of 1960. Much smaller, much shorter, but also not nearly as engaging.
Yeah, but wasn't bad as well. Anyway,
No, it's not bad. It's mediocre.
it's mediocre. Okay, let's get to number 3. Oops. Okay, let me see. I don't have anything repeating again. No, now it's good. I
Do
think
you have like
that
maybe three number threes or something?
no. My
Okay.
my number, like Warriors and the Campaign Manager, would switch somehow. I don't know why, but I put down Warriors twice. Maybe I wanted to express twice how mediocre this game is. I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's very passionate about something mediocre. My number three is a game that is really another implementation of a game I quite enjoy, but it's a much weaker implementation. The game is Alubari.
Hmm.
It's
Yep.
a re-implementation of Snowdonia,
Yeah.
but it has some weird weirdness to it in that you can end up having just this. There's a resource that you can just end up having so much of that it kind of makes the game. It really changes the economy. You can get so much tea leaves just based upon on how things work out that it doesn't that those without those being scarce, it makes the game not all that fun. It's kind of the same worker placement type of a thing as Snowdonia, but it does so in kind of with some extra weirdness that Snowdonia didn't have. Now I know you weren't the hugest fan of Snowdonia, but I
Hmm.
quite like it. And this one, however, I can never see any situation where I have somebody that I know will like Snowdonia and I don't pick that one. And instead, for some reason, get this one out. This one is just such a mediocre experience that it just doesn't have any life to it.
Yeah, that's the one I look forward to kind of a try. I don't know why. Just like the game about tea
Yeah, I remember.
making. I was like, huh, that's exciting. And then I played Snowdonia, and then off the wish list it went. So because I don't like
I saved
Snowdonia,
you some
so
money. Uh,
yeah, then I don't think I should buy this one as well. So yeah,
no, this is a
basically,
worse version of Snowdonia.
okay.
Just like Campaign Manager is a worse version of 1960.
Hmm, I'm not gonna try the other one anyway. All right, my number 3 is a game that I did enjoy. I did enjoy my first couple of plays, but the more I played it, the more mediocre and not so exciting it became. I don't know why. Maybe also the same thing that it was one of the early years of my board gaming, and then as the time went by, I tried more and more games and realized that, oh my, there's so much to learn and try, and this is not that exciting anymore. Bonanza, and I feel Bonanza has its spot on many players' lists of older game that they at some point enjoyed. But this is a game about just trading those beans, getting the set collection done, and then cashing it in for some money. But eventually, it's just an extremely simple game of people trading stuff, and there's nothing else. It just you have those numbers on the bottom. I don't know. There are so many other games where you could trade, even nowadays. But it it's not a bad game. It had its spot in people's hearts and people's hobby, board game hobby, and etc. I feel like this game needs to be appreciated for what it is or for what it was. But nowadays, I'm sure there are other more cooler and more exciting bidding card games. And I think I've bought one of the other, I don't know, some kind of a Santo Domingo that I'm going to try as a bidding game. And I think I've tried a few others as well, or maybe I will try to find more of games that are like Bonanza and see if I do like that kind of a style of game, just, simple card trading. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's mediocre now.
this one doesn't make me angry. I enjoy Bonanza, but I'll agree it's kind of a mediocre game. Not certainly not this designer's best work.
Yeah, I would say if he would go and do a kind of a like almost like Bonanza 2.0, enhancing whatever this one is, maybe another theme, maybe adding few extra mechanics, that would be cooler. I want him to make simple games, not Caverna or any other that not so good game. Anyway, yeah, my number 3. Let's get to number 2.
Okay.
Number 2.
All right, my number 2. When this came out, it was like a mind-blowing idea.
Wow.
I mean, I remember thinking that this was like the most amazing thing. This was going to take off. It did not. In fact, there's only, I think, one other game that has done it, and that game did it a little bit better. This game is actually kind of ugly, and the components are a little... Anyway, the game is called Rattlebones. And what this game kind of did for you was it allowed you to take a die and pull the faces off and put other faces on.
Yeah.
And there was another game like I said that did that a little bit better, but this one itself, the game, you might even see if you can find some of the artwork, but it sort of has a weird carnival theme where you were going to the carnival and you were buying die faces to try and get the most points. I mean, it was really, I think, just a race for, Temporum. That's another mediocre game.
They say it's a bad game.
Well, anyway. Temporum is probably the low side of mediocre. Rattlebones is the straight middle of the line type of mediocre. It just wasn't very exciting, right? The things you could do with your different die weren't very interesting. You would get 2 gold instead of 1, or you could move your train 3 spaces instead of 2. It just never really was very much fun, anything that you got to do. Plus, the sort of physical component of popping that die face off was difficult to do. It was not an easy component to manipulate. And although the game had just such an innovative idea, it was a great idea on a mediocre game.
It seems like it's a roll and move game.
There are some aspects of that. There was a lot of the roll and move part wasn't offensive. There was a lot you could do. I mean, you could, the fact that you could create your die and have it do different things kind of took that away. But it's just not. I think if you went out and played this, you would have a mediocre experience.
Okay. All right. So my number 2 is a game that is a deck building game, and this was my first deck building game. And when I played it the first time, I played it again and again and again. I fell in love with this game. That was just an amazing game. And after we played it for a few days, we overplayed that one and we felt tired. But eventually we started to to see there were more deck building games coming out eventually, and this one came out, like Valley of the Kings came out, and then Clank comes out, and then whatever else comes out, and everything is kind of better than this one. What I'm talking about is Ascension. that's why it's on my list, and I'm sure there are a ton of expansions and things. I don't know what I played exactly. Uh, One of our earlier board gaming community friends gave us a copy of Ascension, and we just played it and was like, can we borrow it for a few more nights and play it again? It was like, whatever. I also played a lot. Let's do that. It was a blast. But once you get to know other games in that same genre and same mechanic, you realize how mediocre Ascension is. It's fast, it's cool. It's the same with Dominion. I could put Dominion here, but I put Ascension because it has kind of a nostalgic reason to it. Dominion, I played a once or two. I was like, no. At the time when I tried Dominion, I already played Valley of the Kings and Clank, whatever. I was like, oh, I don't care about Dominion. And this one was my first one. So thank you to Ascension for introducing me to the deck building. But now you're gone. You're mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad game, though.
I'll agree this is a mediocre game. It's not offensively bad. The artwork from the older version was, but but the game itself is just fine. It's sort of the other type of deck building, right? There's the Dominion type of deck building, and then there's the Ascension type of deck building. And it kind of, it was mediocre.
It's kind of a, you can see 2019, that was like an expansion to that. So
yeah, this game is still has legs. There's stuff coming out for this game 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay. The artwork here is better.
Is better.
It's not great, especially this one. Just looks
kind of like Epic.
Look at that. It looks. Oh wait. Look at the dinosaur. It looks bad. Why it's shouting?
Well,
should be growling. And what's that?
Cat the Tiger Siren looks like she was done by the original artist.
It seems so. Yeah.
Anyway.
I like this one. The White Hero, the address was fine. Anyway, yeah, Ascension, a mediocre deck building for now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to our final number 1.
All right, my number 1 mediocre game is a mediocre experience. Like this is, if you were to pull this out and play it, you would find it to be just mediocre. I don't know that this is going to make anyone offended. The game is called Cafe International.
Mm-hmm.
And, what this is you've got...
the initial one?
Not the card game. Yep, this is the one. Mm-hmm. You've got a cafe, and the cafe has tables with different flags, and you have to put people around the table that fit, that match kind of the spot that they're at. And then there are rules about putting, having an even number of men and women. So you can't have more than 2 women at a table or 2 men at a table. And you can't put, the Italians at the table that's not for Italians. It was just kind of all these rules about placing your things, and then you'll get points. You place people based upon the combinations of what's there. You get different amounts of points. The points are really old, like tiny, sort of ridgy poker tokens. You can kind of see them in the corner there. The artwork, let's just say it hasn't aged very well. The game itself is just not very exciting. It's fine. I've played it a lot of times because it's very easy to teach. But no one ever comes away thinking, except my father. My father loved this game. But other than him, I don't know that anyone ever comes away from this game thinking, oh, that was an amazing experience. I really want to try that again. No, everyone's like, oh, okay. That game happened.
Yeah.
I won. I mean, that's really the experience you'll come away with on Cafe International. I almost considered it for our next list of games that we've significantly cooled on, but I just think that it sort of just it defines what is a mediocre gaming experience.
Yeah. I don't know.
What, did I offend you? Did I pick your favorite?
No, it just doesn't look exciting anyway.
No, it's not. It's
all right.
mediocre. Don't go buy it.
Okay, my number one will kind of hurt your feelings even more, because this is the game I do find mediocre, but I can see people loving it. But I find it mediocre because this one being over complex, too many pieces moving around. I feel like the theme is kind of there, but all those different spirits are not exciting. And that's Spirit Island. I do find Spirit Island for myself a mediocre game. People love this game, but I cannot.
I know people who love this game.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I just don't find it exciting for myself. All those different pieces that you put on the board, and those, I don't know what they are, mushrooms and things, whatever. It just the whole journey felt like, okay, they wanted to make something thematic, and it just doesn't feel as thematic as I would have wanted, or maybe I would have wanted something a little bit different. It felt too mathematic, if you know what I mean. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, the game is very procedural. I don't know that it's mathematic, but it's very procedural.
Or something like that, yeah. Okay, so I just didn't have feelings for this game. And I can see how much thought went to the game, and that this is a design that was thought through, but I feel like this needs to be streamlined. It could have been a smaller game, but still extremely exciting if they could have just, concentrated on the spirits, and the spirits being the central thing, and then the board being just, kind of a sidekick type of thing, because the board is extremely important here. And I felt like the spirits become less important because the board is so important, because those invaders are so important. I wanted to have fun with the spirits, like all about the spirits, because I love the theme about the spirits. So,
Nick, you only played it that one time with me, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't want to touch it again because of the.
Well, and it's if it's not for you, it's not for you. I think this is definitely a game that one will enjoy as one plays it more. This is one that grows over time, and not necessarily one that your first play is going to pull you in, and that may be what happened. For me, obviously, this is one of my, probably if I did my top 10 games of all time list, this would probably be in there, because I find this game, and you say the complexity could be streamlined. No, the designer has doubled down and then doubled down again with the second expansion. So it is definitely for people. This is a game for people who like this game.
Yeah, this is the game where you need to invest time to that game, and I can see. And the thing about there are games that you need to play multiple times. And nowadays, I feel like this shouldn't be an excuse for a game. No game should be the one that you need to play multiple times to start seeing that game, enjoying that game. They need to be complex, but the game should be exciting from the game one. Like, for example, I had people playing. I showed people, some non-gamers, like, for example, I showed Wingspan to a non-gamer. It was struggling a little bit, and he didn't understand half of the things he was doing. He was just doing something. He's like, I don't understand what I did, but it was fun. Let's try again. Now I know. Like, at the end of the game, now I understand. Let's try it again. But I have fun not understanding. So here I wanted to have fun from the get-go, from the game number one. and it needs to be
I
like
did,
that
but
in our world of games. In our world of games, and for many of us who don't play that often, each play is the weight of gold, kind of a, if you know what I mean. That's where I come from, and that's where I just cannot invest time into games that do not click with me from the first play. And there are even games that when I played them, like let's say I played a game, I didn't like it, but it kind of hooked me. It kind of like, ooh, that was, I didn't like it, but something's wrong. I need to play it again. Like I had even that kind of a feeling before. Like with Kemet. I didn't like Kemet the first time, but I wanted to play it again because something's
I'll
wrong.
tell you a
I
story
feel
about
like
Kemet.
something is, yeah, something is in me wanting to give it another chance. So with this one, it was like, I don't care. Just mediocre.
Well, and every game isn't for everyone. I will say just that I don't agree with you on this one. I just checked while we were talking. I have played this game 254 times, so it's definitely one that I
Is
have
it getting
enjoyed.
better?
It is.
2015.
I'm better at it. This one, all the games by this company tend to be the kind that you really have to figure out how to play the game before it can be amazing. Sentinels and the Multiverse is that way as well. It's not the same designer, but it definitely required an investment of some time
And
just
I
to
gave
figure out how to
Sentinel
play.
many chances. Yeah, so
Well, I've given
quite
it
a few.
more.
Sure.
But yeah, so 254 times, this is definitely one. And, if you were to say to me, do you want to play Spirit Island? I'd probably say yeah. Because I find this game very exciting.
But I won't say that to you. Yeah, never. All right.
Be careful. If you don't want to play it, don't say, let's play Spirit Island. Because I'll probably take you up on it.
I'll just make you play Nemesis with me. That's
I
it.
like Nemesis.
All right. So this was another hell of a ride. No, it was just a mediocre ride.
Yeah, it was a mediocre ride. We talked about some games that you probably shouldn't go out and buy.
My list was, there were a few games on my list that people do love, and people maybe should try them out. Maybe they will like them more than me.
Well, I did enjoy the list because I talked about games that I never talk about.
Yeah. So
because I usually talk about games, I usually talk about the highs and the lows, and these are really neither, which is sort of by design.
Where could I talk about Ascension again? Never. It would be on any of my list. Oh, and maybe the
ugly games the ugly games get list it could have been on.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to do another top 10 additional ugly games.
More ugly games.
Yes.
They did the list. The Dice Store did the list about ugly games that are beautiful inside, that are mechanically great but are ugly on the outside. That's a good list to do. A controversial list.
Well, I don't know that this list is controversial. Most people don't get very excited one way or the other about mediocre things.
I think we did that one. We did Ugly Ducklings, which were the games that we did enjoy, but were ugly.
Yeah.
So
that was our list. We did
and
that.
The next one we have is I think
Snakes and Ladders?
17, something like that. But yeah, the new episode is Snakes and Ladders, which is about the games that are, I don't even remember.
It's games that we have improved, that have improved for us over time, and games that have fallen for us over time.
Oh yeah, we will choose 5 and 5 games, each that improved or that were downgraded to mediocrity or even worse, to hate.
Exactly.
I don't know if I have any game that I loved and then I hate it.
I came across several of them while making this list. Right, because some of these were games that I thought were amazing at one point, but
oh, okay. If I go back to my childhood, I could see like Monopoly.
I'm not going to go back that
things.
Far.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. We see you another time with a new topic in 2 weeks. Is it so?
Exactly.
Are we on time with that plan?
I think so.
Okay.
2 weeks is what date? It's the 26th. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's when we're doing it.
Yes. That's fine.
All right.
Anyway, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.